Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Eurasian Digital. I am Asadullah Khan Wazir and today we turn our attention to Kuala Lumpur where nearly 2 dozen world leaders have descended for the 47th ASEAN Summit, a 3-day gathering that could reshape the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. For those unfamiliar, ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, brings together 10 members: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Together, they represent 778 million people and a combined GDP of almost $4 trillion. And this year marks a historic expansion, the induction of East Timor as the 11th member. But here is what makes this summit extraordinary. Alongside ASEAN's own deliberations, Kuala Lumpur is hosting the East Asia Summit, bringing together the US, China, Russia, India, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. And let me tell you, it is not just about politicians. Heads of the World Bank, IMF, ILO, and even FIFA are attending selected sessions. It shows how the region's future is linked not only to geopolitics but also to economy, labor, and soft power. Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is in the spotlight, hosting one of the most high profile ASEAN meetings in years. He is mediating sensitive issues from trade disputes to regional peace efforts. And in fact, one of the most important headlines was a peace pact signed between Cambodia and Thailand in the presence of US President Donald Trump. It is a clear signal that Southeast Asia has become a global magnet for diplomacy. But the question is, what is really on the agenda of this year's ASEAN Summit? First, trade and tariffs. Washington's new Liberation Day tariffs ranging from 10 to 40% on ASEAN exports have shaken the region. Every leader in Kuala Lumpur is looking for a chance to speak directly to Trump about ruling them back. China, meanwhile, has tightened its own restrictions on rare earth exports, metals that power our phones, electronic vehicles, and missiles, turning the supply chain battle into a geopolitical showdown. Second, Myanmar's civil war. The country's military leader has been barred from attending, and next year's chair has been handed to the Philippines instead. 4 years after ASEAN issued its 5-point consensus calling for peace and dialogue, little has changed. Myanmar remains a source of instability, weapon flows, and refugee crises across the region. And the third agenda is institutional reform. ASEAN has often been criticized for being a talk shop with no real enforcement power. Unlike the European Union, it cannot enforce members to honor collective decisions. Analysts say this is rooted in its founding spirit, born from decolonization. ASEAN has always prioritized state sovereignty over supranational authority. But that very independence is now its biggest challenge and its greatest asset. Malaysia's theme for this year, inclusivity and sustainability, sounds idealistic. But the true test will be whether this summit can translate those words into action amid such deep divisions. So, as leaders negotiate behind closed doors in Kuala Lumpur, one thing is clear: the region's future will not be decided by any single power, but by how these nations balance their independence with their interdependence. And remember one thing: in geopolitics, behind every handshake lies a story of leverage, and behind every summit, a quiet struggle for control. Thank you for watching the Eurasian Digital.